Hello, welcome back. It's been a long time. I'm so sorry. Just honestly trying to get my life in order. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Amanda. I would like to say that this is ASMR, but if you see my other videos, I typically start off whispering and then I just start talking normal. So I'm just gonna continue talking normal. I'm not gonna whisper anymore. But I just want to get right to it. Well, one quick update. My birthday was in August, so I am officially 29, and my baby girl in a few weeks will actually be 8 months old. So it's been a very long time since I filmed. But let's just get right into it. We're going to be reading the Edgar Cayce Guide to Self-Healing. And I'm going to be reading chapter 2 today. And if you've even seen the previous 2 videos, my book is jacked up. But funny enough, it starts at chapter 2. So I'm going to put these guys to the side. And let's get right into it. Chapter 2, Sickness and Disease. People are always surprised when they fall sick. They usually get upset or start to blame someone or something. In other words, they don't like it. And if the illness is serious, then a person makes himself even more sick, thinking and complaining internally about the whole situation. It seems that more and more people are studying preventative medicine now, even though the traditional systems of healthcare have not emphasized this enough. And obviously, preventative medicine is so popular because it implicitly promises that it promotes that its proponents will not fall sick easily. So we see the joggers and the non-smokers and the health food faddists increasing day by day. Edgar Cayce had his own ideas about preventative medicine, and it is consonant with his teachings on holistic healing. He advocated good health care, but at the same time, he was very vocal as to what causes illness. He taught that sickness was caused by an unwillingness to comply with the laws of the universe. He did not believe there was any such thing as an incurable disease, but by the same token, he felt that we cause our own sicknesses through non-compliance with the needs of the self. In this chapter, we are going to read some startling affirmations about why we get sick. We may not agree with Cayce, but it will certainly be helpful as a self-healer to know what the root cause of our own sickness and that of others is. One thing is for certain, and that is knowing where the system failed. We are always aware of what has to be done to rectify the situation. And Cayce, through his experience as a healer, says things that merit our attention at the very least. What is our first obligation then as a self-healer? It is to subject ourselves willingly to the laws of the universe. For unless we learn these laws, we find ourselves hitting our head against a stone wall. We wake up each morning and wade through troublesome situations indefinitely, and the laws refuse to change or admit exceptions. The laws are, in reality, opportunities for us, pathways through which we can restore balance in our lives and those who suffer illness. There comes the indication that the entity is meeting problems which have been problems before. What causes, what produces problems in the experience of an entity, either in its mental or material self, that of non-compliance to the laws, the purposes for which creative forces have given the opportunities to the individual entity. People think that when they get sick, they are victims of something sudden and for which they receive no warning. A person suffering from coccyx problems, I definitely don't know what it is, but I don't know if I'm also saying it correctly. Coccyx problems. So I'm just saying coccyx problems. Once asked Cayce to give the origin of all his trouble, using the occasion to teach us that there are no such things as sudden illnesses. Cayce humorously replied, "It began 25,000 years ago. This is the trouble. We actually make ourselves sick. We perform a series of actions that over a long period produce a rebellion in the body. It says that it will not take it anymore, and so it caves in. But the body's rebellion, according to Cayce, results from our personal rebellion to the laws of nature. We have been doing things incorrectly on the levels of the physical, mental, and spiritual. Listen to this. We find that all conditions existent in physical bodies are produced by that which may be met. There are in truth no incurable conditions, though the mode of the plane's existence may be changed. That which exists is and was produced from a first cause. It may be met, counteracted, changed. For each ailment is the result of the breaking of a law. The healing will of necessity come when there is compliance with other laws which meet the needs. The healing depends upon the individual and the attitude toward conditions from all angles. It depends upon the perception of the consciousness which may be manifested through the individual. The evasion of a law puts off that condition which must eventually be met. I just want to say this really quickly. When I was starting my spiritual journey years ago, I remember the first thing that I learned was that, honestly, that there was no incurable disease. And I will eventually make videos about how to heal the body. I do hope to, I think I've said it in a video before, but I do hope to one day be a medicine woman. I believe that the body wants to heal itself, and we have to put the right things in the body to heal itself. I personally am vegan, but I'm still not perfect. I still, on occasion, will buy Beyond Meat, and everybody knows, let's be very frank, it may be better than regular meat, but it is so heavily processed to the point where it does, at least in my opinion, just as much damage to the body than regular meat. So I would never say that I'm better than someone as far as the fact that, oh, I'm vegan, I must be better than you, if I'm still going to eat Beyond Meat. But I definitely learned that a long time ago, and I believe that we are more than capable of healing ourselves from anything. I think it's the willpower that we possess in order for us to heal ourselves. I don't know if you can tell, I have some acne going on. I can definitely say it's stress. I could definitely say it's this, it's that, but in all actuality, it's my diet. I've been eating the Beyond Meat, but I know I should be doing better. I definitely have been looking for more comfort food because life is life. So I don't even have to go like, life is tough. I don't actually like saying that anymore. Life is genuinely what you make of it, and I don't want to say that it's tough. Actually, if we want to be very frank, life is pretty easy once you keep making the right decisions. If you know that if you step left, if you step left, boom, your health is better. If you step right, even just to see what it's like, don't be surprised if you fall ill to anything. Back to the book. To get a feel for what Cayce teaches about illness, let's look at the following. Here we have an unbalanced condition in the nerve systems, in the assimilating system, in the glandular system, yet the body attempts through the activity of the creative forces in all three of these systems to adjust itself to the disturbances and to do the best it can with what it has. If we would only attempt to do that in our own minds, how much happier the world would be. Ye are sensitive to things about you, because ye have lived not only in the experience but in many others in a very extravagant life in every phase of your association with your fellow man. Have ye not found within, as in thine own body in the present, that the extravagance of thy living has produced those very inclinations that arise in thy digestive forces? Thus thy high blood pressure arises from this overindulgence, this activity, and and unless ye make reparation, these conditions will overcome thee. That's what I was just saying. You can't be surprised. I can't be surprised by the acne popping up on my face. I've been eating Beyond Meat. I haven't. Thankfully, I don't eat that much of it. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people that's, oh, I really want comfort, so I'll like eat comfort food. Like I'll eat comfort food maybe every few months, but then when I do, it's like an entire week, like just out the window. As to the material activities, keep away from those things that hinder, such as the effects of alcohol, of riotous living, of indulgences in great quantities of stimulations, or as just given. Be consistent. What we see then is that Cayce saw sickness on several levels, and he pulled no punches in his diagnosis. He is actually telling the person that he is responsible for his own illness, and his excesses and exaggerations brought about his downfall. As a self-healer, then you must enlarge your own focus and not see sickness as one-dimensional. Our point is that most experience sickness in a very deep-seated manner. Even people who are called hypochondriacs are really sick. Someone asked Cayce if surgery was advisable in a particular case, and he responded, not if the applications suggested are made as the attitude is changed. If the body continues to hold on to and enjoy being worked on by the doctor, put on by same, pulled and hauled about by others, well, you might as well keep doing it. But we have indicated how to meet the condition first within self. Quit feeling sorry for self. Do something about it that will be constructive by doing something for others as well, by being more quiet. As a person seeking to learn the secrets of self-healing, you must realize that Cayce believes we make ourselves sick. All illness, according to Cayce, is rooted in sin, and all sin, in fact, the only sin as revealed in the readings, is self. One commentator on Cayce points out that the word sin is derived from an Anglo-Saxon archery term meaning off the mark. So as we seek to gratify the self instead of complying with the laws of nature, we find ourselves becoming very selfish. We seek only our self-interest, our own purposes, and we believe the whole world centers about us. So before long, we begin to pay the consequences of our inverted view of the universe. We get sick. Here are a few pertinent observations made by Cayce on this subject. Just really quickly, I do apologize. I have not changed the batteries in my smoke detector, so you will hear that. You will hear that every now and then. For the entity pities self, and an individual soul that begins to pity self soon finds fault with others and forgets the real freedom. But if there is the constant resistance kept as through the holding of resentments, the creating of activities, and the finding of fault here and there, we will continue to have a reaction that will be a very nervous, a very disturbing physical as well as mental material condition. And keep the constructive mental attitude. Never resentments, for this naturally creates within the system those secretions that are hard upon any circulation, and especially where there is disturbance with the spleen, the pancreas, and a portion of the liver activity. For every soul, as every tub must sit upon its own bottom, and the soul that holds resentment owes the soul to whom it is held much. Hast thou forgiven him the wrong done thee, then thou owest him not. Cayce believed that not just the general self caused sickness when it inverted its position in the universe, but specifically the emotions could also cause disease. When asked about this, Cayce said, to be sure, attitudes oft influence the physical condition of the body. No one can hate his neighbor and not have stomach or liver trouble. No one can be jealous and allow the anger of same and not have upset digestion or heart disorder. For anger can destroy the brain as well as any disease. For it itself a disease of the mind. The constant thinking, the constant thought of hate, malice, jealousy brings physical conditions as a result in the physical body as it does in a state or a nation. It is such results that It is such results that produce warring conditions of nations, disputations in state, physical disturbances in the body. These are part of the conditions here: animosities, dislikes, jealousies, hates. The expression is first through the sensory organism. Change the body's thoughts, we will change the effect upon those activities in the throat, in the eyes, and the ears. What Cayce is telling us as self-healers is that we must overcome all attitudes and negative thoughts or emotions if we would be effective channels of healing. For these bring about disease and illness. What he wants from us then is that we as healers be signs of peace and reflect personal harmony in our everyday life, simply because our physical body reflects the state of the mind and soul. As healers, we must watch those that come before us and ourselves especially. If we suffer from deep-seated hates or fears or resentments and subconsciously thirst for love, then we can diagnose the beginning of illness. What Cayce has given us is the source of many ills, and at the same time, the way we can show people how to recover true health. Cayce is adamant in his teachings. There are evidences of a weakness in the physical body through the desire for gratifying of appetite that has blocked the will of the mental forces. By gratifying a physical desire for the emotions of a mental and physical experience, thus becoming a destructive influence to the physical and mental body. In the gratifying of a desire, these become habit-forming in the manner of the effect then of the drug and the effects of alcohol upon the system, weakening the will and thus weakening the coordination between the manifestations of spiritual truth with material gratification of flesh desires. Read the following questions and answers that Cayce has in his readings. Question: are all physical weaknesses and ailments caused primarily from breaking spiritual laws instead of just physical or natural laws as we know them? Answer: rather the combination of both. In the physical forces, there are the activities from those things that just indicated. As to the way color comes into physical existence from the spiritualization of sound or spiritualization set up by an elemental force. So with activities of the body, these come from the first urge, which is the meeting and union of forces that create as in the beginning of conception, and then the elements which enter by feeding. Yet it will always be found that an attitude of the mental forces has its inception in those things which come into growth. For what we think and what we eat combined make what we are physically and mentally. Question: what is my worst fault? Answer: what is the worst fault of each soul? Self. Self. And what is the meaning of self? That the hindrances are hurts to the self-consciousness. And what do these create? Disturbing forces. And these bring about confusions and faults of every nature. For the only sin of man is selfishness. Question: for instance, do my weaknesses in the physical body have anything to do with the manner in which I first erred in? I always mess up this word. It's E-R-R-E-D, erred, in spirit, hence making it necessary for me to correct in harmony within before attaining a perfect body? Answer: they are the result of same, of course, throughout the activities during the ages, and then what we do about them in any one experience or combination of experiences. Question: is the ill health which I have been experiencing the past years the result of mistakes of a past life, or is it due to something amiss in the present life? Answer: both. For there is the law of the material, there is the law of the mental, there is the law of the spiritual. That which brought into materiality is first conceived in spirit. Hence, as we have indicated, all illness is sin, not necessarily of the moment, as man counts time, but as part of the whole experience. For God has not purposed or willed that any soul should perish, but purgeth everyone by illness, by prosperity, by hardships, by those things needed in order to meet self. But in him, by faith and works, are ye made every whit whole. Sickness then is basically rebellion for Cayce. He takes pain not only to point this out, but also to show us that a sincere compliance brings about healing, if and when we so desire it. Then when there is rebellion of body or mind against such, Is there any wonder that the atoms of the body cause high blood pressure or itching or indigestion, etc.? For all these but represent the rebellion of truth and light, error and correction in a physical body. Thy body is indeed the temple of the living God. What have you dragged into this temple? Seek the Lord while he may be found, and then apply just plain everyday judgment to the disturbances of the body. You will find that ye will grow in grace and in knowledge and in understanding. And this means in all phases of thy life. And what is the first promise? Know that the Lord thy God is one Lord. That means of soul, of mind, and of body. Then when the soul, the image of the Creator, is attuned to the divine, you are on the road to meeting thy own self, and all will be well with thee. Anyone then who would be a healer must pay heed to the strong statements made on the nature of disease by Cayce. He takes great pains to explain to us the relationship of illness to sin. He shows us what sin is and how it affects us all. And even more, he shows us that sin exists even on the spiritual plane, not only on the physical and mental. But we are reminded that sins committed on the spiritual or mental plane always reflect or manifest on the physical plane. What we have to be careful of, as Cayce warns us, is that sins of the spirit and mind may not be perceptible by the naked eye, yet they are registered with a finer substance and are therefore of a much higher vibration than the lower. That is why we suffer quicker and more intensive reactions from these. As we progress further in this study of the Edgar Cayce methodology of self-healing, we will truly understand the relationships of the spiritual or emotional body. We will see why the body cannot ignore these relationships, for they contribute much to its welfare, physical as well as spiritual. What Cayce is telling us then is that psychological conditions are often the basis of some of the racking pains that often seize the body. Cayce finds corroboration in modern medical literature for his insistence on the imbalance of the triune man as the prime cause of sickness. For the medical profession is finally seeing man as more than physical. They know he is also mental and spiritual. How often do they tell us that the disease we suffer has its roots in anxiety, distress, or emotional upset? Yes, we have a disturbing condition with the body and a very unusual mind to deal with. Attitudes, to be sure, often influence the physical conditions of the body. No one can hate his neighbor and not have stomach or liver trouble. No one can be jealous or allow anger and not have digestion or heart disorder. Neither of these is present here, yet such attitudes have much to do with accumulations which have gradually become disorders tending to produce a neuritic, arthritic reaction. Stiffness at times is indicated in the locomotories. There is nausea or upsetting of the digestive system. Headaches seem to arise from a disturbance between liver and kidneys themselves, though setting up better eliminations usually cause these to be eased. Then, in the attitude of the body, know that there is within self all the healing that may be accomplished for the body, for all healing must come from the divine. For what healeth thy disease? The source of the universal supply. How well do ye wish to be? How well are ye willing to cooperate and coordinate with those divine influences which may work in and through the stimulating centers which have been latent in nature's activities? For all of these forces must come from the one source, and the applications are merely to stimulate the atoms of the body. For each cell is a universe in itself. Then what would ye do with thy abilities, as yet give to others, not hating them, that ye may know more of the universal force, so may ye have the more, for God is love. In the mind of Cayce, then, man's undoing is within himself by gratifying the desires and weaknesses of the flesh. All sickness then comes from sin. This is something we all must accept, whether we like it or not. For as Cayce says, you shall pay every whit that you break the law of the Lord. For the law of the Lord is perfect, it converteth the soul. Cayce reached his conclusion on the nature of illness from his experience. He used to say that at times he found disturbing conditions aggravating the body, which at times would not yield to treatment until there was more peace or less consternation within self. He also possessed a great faith. He saw God as the author of life. He felt if we could not tell who was the light and life on the earth, then we were far, far from knowing the way home. For to him the soul seeks its own in him who is the light, the life, and the way. Some people feel that Cayce saw only sin in his readings, but you be the judge as the following excerpt is read by you. There is then a lack in the supply of the salivary gland forces, for the dryness in the throat, the feeling of the thickness of the tongue at times arise from these physical conditions which exist in the body. The blood flow and nerve expression from the third cervical, ninth dorsal, and fourth lumbar need attention in a certain way as may be indicated for the body. These particular areas show incoordination between sympathetic and cerebrospinal systems. Not a nerve deterioration, no. Not a nerve fatigue, not a blood anemia, but a suppression of the activities and the physical forces of the body. Just as warnings have been given, these may become anything in the body when there is a suppression of activities toward the liver or the spleen to the heart, lungs, or kidneys. The function of any of these organs may gradually become as deteriorating factors in the body. Remember, the above is cited from the lips of a man who did not finish grade school and yet who also did not attend medical school. He was solely intent on teaching us how to reach the core of healing, and so he had to express all his teachings in the deep religious faith that burned in his heart. All illness is a violation of the law of the Lord. It is a rebellion by the self against the against the understanding of the laws of nature. It is basically selfishness manifesting on the physical level. Read again how Cayce phrases it. For here we have an individual entity meeting its own self, the conditions in regard to the movements of the body, the locomotories, the nerve endings, the muscular forces. What ye demanded of others ye must pay yourself. Every soul should remember not to demand of others more than ye are willing to give, for ye will pay, and as most through thy gills. Remember, you are now meeting the things which you applied. Live with this in mind, and every soul may well take heed. You shall pay every whit that you break of the law of the Lord, for the law of the Lord is perfect, it converteth the soul. We would like to conclude this chapter by citing a few questions and answers that we feel especially summarize the Cayce philosophy of disease. We repeat that the intended self-healer cannot afford to overlook this perspective on disease, since in reality, Cayce is also offering the healing path through his analysis. Someone asked him, do emotional disturbances affect the skin on my face? What did I just say? To which he replied, to be sure, emotional disturbances affect the circulation, causing the flushes which leave drosses and naturally affect the superficial circulation. Another asked him the following question. Please explain how to heal an epileptic, and are they possessed by an unclean spirit? If so, should we command it to leave in the name of Jesus Christ and no more enter? His answer was, there are various kinds of ills in those who are termed epileptics. Some arise from one condition, some from another. Some are indeed possessed with an uncleanness from those deeds of moral life and that which have been projected or brings the essence of life itself. They would become epileptics and meeting self those very conditions which were omissions during experiences in the earth. Then there would be brought to this life the necessity that others who would aid must demand in the name that these be cast out. Also, there are some ill who need the body vibrations each day to be made whole by the laying on of hands. This will require some 2, 3 to 4 weeks, and if an understanding is to be brought to the body and a change that will make for wholeness of purpose, then one who brings such a change by self or by the aid of others saves one from much that hinders. Another person asked Cayce the following question. Will you please explain the significance of the vibratory system which I experience from time to time, especially when in church? Should I make a conscious effort to control or regulate these sensations? Information has been given about the entity's development, also the entity's activities during periods of experience. When endowed with the power of control over elements or attributes of mental and physical conditions which were at variance with the life-giving forces in the body. These activities therefore bring to the inner consciousness certain kinds of vibrations, making for attunement or experiences within self that have found expression before in being given out to others. When one has been so attuned, so endowed, so in accord with those elements, the vibrations or conditions that arise within self are like the magnet drawing steel. There is a calling of kindredships that are attracted by the spirit answering spirit. This question of vibrations is one that we will deal with in a subsequent chapter when we consider the physical and psychological modes of healing recommended by Cayce. We cited it here to show how totally a person can enter in the healing phases once he or she understands the nature of sickness. To quote Cayce again, it is the spirit answering spirit. Okay. That was just a really good read. I honestly didn't want to comment too much on that chapter. I actually wanted to just read it through. There are some things that I don't know how to really say it. There are some things that just sit well or just resonate with the spirit, and my human experience doesn't really need to comment on it. I feel like this one was a pretty self-explanatory chapter, so I'm going to go ahead and just wrap it up. Thank you again for joining me. Like I said, today was chapter 2, Sickness and Disease, and we are reading the Edgar Cayce Guide to Self-Healing. Thank you again for joining me. I'm definitely going to make sure I get back to reading the book more regularly, because even if it's just a small group of people that want to hear me read it, or they don't have the option to find, or they don't have the option to get the book at the moment, I will gladly read this for you. Please have a wonderful day, have a wonderful weekend, take care of yourself, and make sure you are listening to your spirit more than anything. Have a great one. Bye.